This is probably the best vehicle that any new player or anyone wanting to get an easy vehicle that is basically one of the best in the game, then look no further than the Super Conqueror. This is of course the tier 10 American heavy tank that is very, very powerful. It has a whole host of very good benefits of playing, and primarily is a very, very easy to get to grips with vehicle that has a brilliant tech tree leading all the way up to the tier 10. And so today we're having a look at what this thing can do, why it is so good, and of course why everyone should at least try to get towards this tank and understand how it can make you a much better player overall. So straight off the bat, the Super Conqueror, the tier 10 American heavy vehicle that has a ridiculously good turret, which is one of the key points about this tank. This turret is very, very strong. The only weak point of the turret is the mantlet. If you've got ridiculous penetration, you can pen it through the mantlet, as well as the fact that you do get a cupola. The cupola is tiny and basically relies upon you hitting a minuscule little bulb on the tank itself to be able to pen, making it very, very strong. And in fact, a lot of the times you're not actually able to pen the cupola, especially when it's using the incredible 10 degrees of gun depression that this tank gets. Combine that with the fact that this tank has a ridiculously good main armament, being able to deal 3,800 total damage per minute, that is, and yeah, very, very powerful vehicle indeed. It also is not the slowest tank in the game. It's able to actually go up to 35 kilometers an hour as standard, and with some of the equipment that you can put in the vehicle, you're able to get that up significantly more. So how have we set up the Super Conqueror, and why have we done it in this way? Well, we've got advanced loader, that's for increased damage per minute. We've got gun stabilizer, that's for increased accuracy because you want to make sure you're hitting every single time. And with a main armament like this, you are able to hit shots so easily because it is just insanely accurate and really, really very, very good. And so when you make that even better, you can become a laser within the game, and basically if you miss, it's probably because you didn't aim properly. So that makes this tank very, very powerful in that regard. And then we went for traction system for increased speed and also the whole rotation speed, just so that if medium tanks tried to out traverse you, you're a little bit faster and can deal with them. Now there is definitely the opportunity to drop out the traction system and go for advanced optics. Similarly, you could drop out the gun stabilizer as well, so that you could have advanced optics and run with the advanced loader and traction system. Obviously, depending on how you want to set up the tank is entirely down to you, but this is kind of the setup I went for, and it worked pretty well. I just like being up close and personal, and any way to get there faster is obviously going to be a benefit. So with that being said, we are running large repair kit, we are running small med kit, and then large rations. This is kind of the optimal build in terms of kind of, I guess, making the tank feel very good without having to spend full premium consumables. Although I would suggest taking an enhanced med kit, and maybe we'll find that out in the gameplay portion later on in this video. So yeah, make sure that if you are wanting to run it at the maximum, then you do take all 3 premium consumables. But if you are wanting to save a little bit of money, then I would drop out the med kit. And then if you wanted to save even more, I'd take out the repair kit. And then I would always, every single time, recommend taking enhanced rations, because it is just insanely strong because of the crew bonuses that it gives, as well as giving you a better performance when you do activate it, making it a hell of a lot better. So make sure that you do use basically enhanced rations in every vehicle that you play on World of Tanks console. Maybe not the lower tiers if you're not that bothered about it, but if you want to perform and you want to do the best, enhanced rations is one of the best bonuses you can use, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot and will actually earn you silver over the cost of it, because 10,000 silver per game will actually only be a couple of shots within the game, and often the enhanced rations can give you more than that and give you a bit of assistance as well, because at the end of the day, we're playing in a heavy tank, and so view range can be beneficial, but we don't want to take advanced optics because most of the time you've got decent view range anyway. We have 465 meters, which means we're spotting most things anyway, especially because we're close to them most of the time, because you're a heavy tank, should be up close and personal most of the time using the gun depression. So with that being said, obviously over max view range allows us to work this tank very well at the front of the map, getting assistance damage and actual damage both combined. And yeah, the standard round penetration 259 is actually not bad. It's not the I guess not the best in the game, and it's certainly not the worst. It's kind of that middle range, but you do have APCR rounds as your kind of secondary round, or APDS if you want to be specific, but it has 326 mil of penetration, which is very, very good. You can deal with absolutely everything in the game with that, provided you're at least aiming for weak points, and most of the time you don't even have to do that with 326 pen. Then when it comes to HESH rounds, we do load a couple of these, and that's primarily for those Waffle E100s, the Gorilla 15s, the Batchats, that sort of stuff. And what's great about the Super Conqueror is that it gets 120 pen on its HE because they are HESH rounds, and so yeah, these make it a lot easier to pen things, as well as dealing a lot more consistent damage with HE because of the increased penetration. So yeah, very, very good rounds. Really, really useful that the HE in this thing is indeed HESH, and certainly useful against those lightly armored vehicles that you want to be firing HESH at. So with that being said, I think we've gone over the entire thing. Obviously the Super Conqueror doesn't look like this. This is a skin, just for those of you wondering. You can purchase it, I believe, but the standard Super Conqueror looks like this, if with like a basic camo on it. Of course, the skin added from one of the seasons, I believe, or something like that. Yeah, this is what it looks like. So pretty cool tank. Let's get into the gameplay, and I'll see you there. Now then, I jumped into the Super Conqueror primarily because one of my friends is actually playing the Super Conqueror on PC. Yes, they're two different games, but the idea of how you play the Super Conqueror is exactly the same. And so I wanted to show him how you can kind of play this tank to consistently deal more damage. I wasn't super try-harding or anything like that, just primarily playing it just to show the sorts of things that you want to do and how you can make it work. So makes for a perfect YouTube video, as is going to help you guys out hopefully as well as to some of the thought processes you want to use, not just in the Super Conqueror itself, but also in a lot of the other heavy tanks that you'll be playing throughout this game if you do so. And often it can actually work for a lot of medium tanks. Now, given that the Super Conqueror is very good at being able to go hold down, we need to find a hold down location, and so we go straight for the center of this map. It's a very hotly contested area, and considering that we are the top tier heavy tank in the game, we want to make sure that we do contest that area and be able to win it hopefully, or at least deal with a lot of the opponents that we possibly can as we move into this spot. So you can see here the view range coming clutch, being able to actually spot the enemy team, as well as get a shot off against the R7 here. He's obviously struggling with the, you know, the main armament, being able to actually depress his gun there, and that makes us a lot easier to be able to get some damage. And so far already, just by pushing at the early game, you can pick up a lot of damage with this tank. You can see how accurate it is as well, and yeah, it just is supremely, supremely good. Hence, probably why it's called the Super Conqueror. It is just superior. I really do think that this tank is one of the best out there that you can get. And of course, we went for a blind fire on the FV just to remove him. Now, given that one of the kind of, I guess, RNG elements is out of the game, let's try get rid of the next RNG element. So even if I take a hit here, it's fine, because we'll remove that big alpha damage from being able to potentially YOLO me as we go through this game. So now that we've kind of established ourselves in the center and started to kind of push people back, like the IS-7, we've got rid of the FV, and we've also got rid of the FV215B183, we can start focusing on this flank. Now we get hit by an E5, but we want to get one more into this guy, and then we can start focusing on him. However, we are in a bit of a pickle here. Now, this happens in the Super Conqueror, it happens in a lot of heavy tanks where enemy players will be able to kind of find your weak points and start to try and deal with you. So what do? Well, we want to remove the angles that multiple of these tanks are going to be able to get against us. And so we put the rock to my right in between me and the E5. Given that we've done that, now we can start pushing the IS-7. However, as we push out, we get hit from the right, probably a TD or something. It's absolutely fine, and sometimes it's okay to take some hits. Often you do have to take hits in this game. You can see me there. I bashed up against the rock just as the IS-7 came over, so we bounced around as he aims at our lower plate, which becomes even more angled. And then, of course, we end up bouncing off of that tank. But this is not the tank that you want to see, and of course he manages to pen us and sets us on fire, the typical waffly 100 things. But you could see, just from taking an early game position, we picked up 5,000 damage and we blocked 4,400. It's kind of a case in point of what an aggressive Super Conqueror can do. And often, if you don't get YOLO'd or you have a little bit of team support like we didn't really have here, you can actually survive encounters like YOLO Wagon, Waffly 100 players that come over the ridge. Obviously, you got taken out instantly after. So, I mean, I guess we participated in the game and ended up actually ruining that Waffles game either way, or he ruined his own one just by trying to get me out of the game. So, I'm not going to credit myself with the actual damage, but if we weren't there, we probably, that guy probably would have been still sat at the back and could have potentially got some more damage on some of our teammates. So either way, even in a loss or a defeat that we actually received in the tank, we still ended up dealing a little bit more damage. But with that being said, of course this game ends up just being a Tyrann fest where the Tyrann YOLOs around dealing loads of damage and ends up coming to the victory screen in just a second. It was a bit of a clutch one because there were a lot of TDs that have derp guns, and so yeah, we had to wait a while before we finally ended up seeing the victory screen, which should appear in just a second as we capture the base. And the enemy tank left alive does decide to avoid detection and survives the game. Not quite sure why you'd want to do that, but I would be searching out a little bit more damage in my tanks, but that's just me. Either way, we come second in the game, 5,000 damage, 1,298 base XP, not the greatest, but at the end of the day, we secured that middle area, which I thought was pretty important, and it also showed that even when you make a bit of a misplay, I guess, when it comes to positioning in the later or middle of the game, you can still deal quite a bit of damage and have a good result nonetheless. And so you saw what it was like when, you know, you make a mistake, maybe you don't underestimate the opponents, etc. Well, this game is going to be where you just get a little bit unlucky, and because, you know, we are not running full premium consumables, that might come back to bite us in this game. But at the end of the day, I'm not going for marks of excellence in this tank. I'm not really bothered. So min-max in the tank to have the best possible loadout is not particularly my intention with playing this tank. It was more of just showcasing how to kind of play a tank like this to everyone, including yourselves, and just basically give my experience of what I managed to have kind of learnt throughout my World of Tanks console experience or games that I've played, and that is primarily what I try and do on the channel. So if you're interested and you aren't already subscribed, then feel free to subscribe or check out some of the other videos. But of course, with that out of the way, we are moving into this location here. That's because we spawn closer to this area. It allows us to push up. And so we're going to focus not on the medium tank here. We're going to focus on the high alpha tanks. These are the tanks that you want to get rid of pretty quickly because, you know, you never know. One of them might get a weird angle on you and end up removing a lot of your hit points. And so if you can shoot them, you should probably do it. But you can see here, we are struggling to try and find the weak point of the 50 TP. You can see me here just trying to go for the tracking shot there because we couldn't get any ideal armor. He was raised up on a ridgeline, which allows his cupolas to be at a greater angle and you can actually bounce off of them. The Maushan in the back is our next target, however, and he's just sat out with his lower plate exposed. If I was in the Maushan, I would be slightly angling to one side to make it a little bit harder of a shot, especially from distance. But of course, that is a little bit difficult, and sometimes you can expose yourself to other players as well at the same time. Now, this flank is not looking all too good. It is a little bit of a, I guess, a failing flank because there's a lot of enemy tanks. They're all looking pretty healthy, and yeah, they've got 3 derp guns on the enemy team, the Centurion AVRE and 2 FV4005s who, you know, don't have to actually aim and deal 800 damage to you. Yay, I love this game. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's 2 shots of 800 damage done to me, and we are down to, you know, 950 hit points from people not actually having to aim whatsoever, which, you know, it's whatever. It is how those tanks operate. Wargaming probably shouldn't have so many of these derp cannons that basically you don't have to aim with. But that's a topic for another day. Of course, in that sort of scenario, you want to actually back up and not actually expose yourself. Unfortunately for me, I was just hoping that I wouldn't receive another 800 damage hit. The AVRE fires here. I'm trying to get the shot onto the upper plate there through the little grating, but of course it hits the grating because thanks for making a tank that doesn't have any frontal weak points really in certain situations, like when you're looking down onto it. And of course you can get unlucky with that sort of thing. I go for an auto aim here. I don't want to over peak because the AVRE is actually reloading here. He then decides to come all the way around, and as you know me, if you've watched any length of my videos, we always love to get AVREs out of the game and remove them from the game. So there's one shot into that guy, and we'll be seeing more from the AVRE in this game as we go forward. However, if you have been keen-eyed in this game, you'll have seen that we've got our ammo loader actually knocked out of this game, which just means that we've now got a 13-second reload to be able to do 400 damage. Now, the enemy team probably don't know that, but you never know. Maybe they do. Either way, it does leave us in a bit of a dire situation. Now, I wanted a shot on the 50 TP, but we don't want to do that because the AVRE is here and we don't want to get derped. If we fire, it gives him the opportunity to just poke us for free without taking any damage, and especially considering the fact that we do have a really bad reload right now, and for the rest of the game. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be exposing yourself all too much. So what do? Rather than push this guy, I could push him and maybe I take a shot. Maybe I bounce one, but you know, you never know. He might actually bounce the round and then we can't finish him off. So what do? Well, I back up into this location here. Why? This exposes the enemy tanks if they do want to get a shot onto me right out in front of all of the people. The enemy FV decides to YOLO wagon there over the hill and not actually aim. That is a big misplay by him, as he could have removed me from this game. But unfortunately for me, I can't get one onto the 1-2-1 here. And you can see here we are in a shambles of a position, but luckily our little Tyran on our team manages to get one into him. But there's still 3 tank destroyers, 3 medium tanks, 2 of them being, you know, derp cannons, and of course 1 heavy tank still left alive. So we've got to play a little bit passively here. I can't expose myself all too much. You can see the AVRE is getting frustrated. He wants me out of the game, but unfortunately for him, he's got to expose a lot more. You can see bad aim by me. I was aiming at the floor. I should have unlocked my turret when I came around that corner, and we probably could have got a shot into him. Either way, we removed the AVRE, or one of them, out of the game. And you can see here the FV is like, huh? I need to get this guy. And unfortunately for him, if he comes over this hill, our team are going to be able to pump him. And so it won't be worth it for him to over-peak me. And yeah, that's kind of what you got to do in these sorts of games. Even if you can't deal a whole lot more damage in the game, what you can certainly do is essentially make it very difficult for opponents to get away with taking you out or getting damage on you. And that's kind of how heavy tanks can be played to their maximum. Even when you aren't actually got a shell in the magazine, or maybe you're reloading, you can make it difficult for people, and you can end up dealing or getting your team to get damage and end up with a better win percentage overall, because you're helping the team out even if it doesn't directly impact your statistics within said game. Now I'm trying to get a little shot on the FV here. Of course I can't really poke over. He can probably dirt me, as you saw earlier, for 800. So with only 489 health left, it's not looking too good. And then of course he actually gets taken out, and it's unlikely that we're going to get another shell into the 50 TP before we reload. And it looks like he's actually turning around. Please someone finish him before he hits me. And there you go. So not the greatest amount of damage, but it doesn't actually help when you do actually get ammo racked. So or at least your loader taken out. So yeah, just make sure that if you are trying to min-max a tank, you don't do what I did, which is take a small medkit, because it will severely impact your game and stop you from being able to play in the way that the tank performs. But in those situations where maybe something like that does go off peak, you can kind of learn maybe from this gameplay what you can kind of do to combat it. But otherwise, I hope you did enjoy this video. Of course, this is part of a series where we look at the tech tree review, which will cover all of the tanks leading up to the Super Conqueror, and hopefully be an interesting one for you guys to have a look at the entire tech tree throughout the guides series and stuff like that we're going on in 2024. If you've enjoyed, like the video, and have a look at some of the other gameplay and tank reviews that we've done on the channel on the right hand side in the playlist. And of course on the left hand side will just be one of the most recent videos that we've done. Hopefully you enjoy, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.